Yes, the National Consumer Commission will name and shame those found guilty of overcharging.
We have complaints actually that range from especially from your sanitizing products, your masks, and your hand gloves. So those are the issues wherein we really find a number of complaints. But most of all is also what is also disturbing is around the issue of your toilet paper. That was really kind of like concerning. We wanted to confirm with the retailers. We have actually issued 11 investigation certificates to them. So we wanted to follow up with them to ensure that they have each received and confirmed that they have received them. And once they have received them, we will be able to name and shame them. But they are all across the provinces. We will be saying in Gauteng, in the Western Cape, in Mpumalanga, and then in the Free State. The one wherein we haven't received anything, I think for now it's KZN and it's the Northern Cape. But they would include most of your retailers that we normally buy from regularly, and some of them would be some of the bigger retailers that are listed. And that is actually what is worrying for us because they promised that they would keep their prices in check. Maybe they've got a reasonable explanation for that.
All right, let's bring you this story. South Africans will be in lockdown from Friday. Many companies and especially small businesses will close down now, while others will operate using skeleton staff. Some employers are asking staff to use their leave during the lockdown. So, how are workers' rights being protected during this time? To discuss this, we're joined via Skype by the Minister of Labour and Employment, Thulas Nxesi. Minister, a very good morning to you. Firstly, how many workers have already lost jobs during this COVID-19 outbreak?
Morning, Tony. Unfortunately, we do not have those figures, and we are going to be relying on the employers to give us those figures because it's a case by case in terms of their different companies. Some companies is a total shutdown. Some companies it will be certain units, not all the units. So we don't have those figures thus far.
Minister, in terms of the sectors of the economy that are most notorious for abusing workers' rights, which of those would you say are uppermost in mind at a time like this?
I'm not going to pinpoint on particular sectors, but it's well known that there are serious problems in the security industry. There are serious problems in farming, domestic workers. Well, sometimes it's those workers who are isolated who are very vulnerable in this. But in some instances, it's also some of the big factories where your workers are not unionized. So one cannot pinpoint that it's this particular area. So it varies. It depends also on the organization of the unions in that particular factory or in that particular sector.
How then, Minister, do we ensure that these workers' rights are protected?
First, our inspectors will be running all over to monitor if what is supposed to be implemented. We will have to apply for them as a special category who must work and monitor if people are complying to what has been what has been agreed. And we must just be honest, even on the rights we want to give during this particular period, we are going to rely on the cooperation of the employers. And but we'll also be having a hotline which we will announce today that anything unwarranted should be reported into that hotline. We would be seated with the senior management monitoring and try to intervene where there are those problems.
Yeah, Minister, I'm going to ask you to give us that number, the hotline, at the end of this conversation. The issue of leave, Minister, some companies, as you've heard in that intro, are asking workers to use their leave during this COVID-19 shutdown. Is that permissible? Is that allowed?
We have indicated, we have had this complaint that all those employers who are doing that, they are wrong, they are violating the rules, because we have indicated that we do have workers catered in terms of in terms of this particular disaster which we are facing. People can have the illness, what you call benefit, which they normally enjoy in terms of the law. They will have that particular leave if they are ill. People can have, there is also the death benefit, where if something unfortunate happens, or an employee dies as a result of COVID-19 and wishes, while still at work, the employee qualifies for the death benefit, which can be accessed by the family. But also there's something which we have called the temporary employer-employee relief scheme, where we are trying to help the very same employers who are financially and operationally in distress. But this has been applying even before the issue of this disaster we're talking about, where we do an assessment and so on. But in terms of this particular disaster, in terms of the COVID-19, we have what we call the disaster fund or disaster benefit, which will provide relief to both employer and employees. In that EIF will pay that disaster benefit to the beneficiaries during this period of the 21 days where there will be a shutdown in most of the factories.
Minister,
that should not affect the people's lives.
Yeah. Minister, finally, how do you deal with companies who are going to use the coronavirus pandemic as the perfect excuse to lay off workers?
It might not be easy to do it now during this particular period. Remember, it's a very restricted period even for those who might have had permit. But we will be collecting all that information so that later on we're able to work on that. But also the employers, the employees will have to phone us. At this moment, I don't have that number, but before the midday, we will be having that number. We'll be announcing it together with our regulations.
All right. Minister Thulas Nxesi, the Minister for Labour and Employment, telling us there, Sally, that the number, the hotline that people have got to use should they come into problems or encounter problems as far as employers are concerned, that number is going to be released sometime in the day. He just doesn't have it right now. But